Hello, everyone.
Hi guys.
Welcome to Love Wednesday. Once again, it's Philip and Doreen,
Yeah.
and we're happy to spend this time with you. We've been on a series called No More Drama, which we end today. We looked at the different characteristics of people, runners and fighters. Then we had a look at the fear factor, what drives us in conflict, the different fears that we have. Then we looked at how to fight clean. And today we're going to look at healthy habits.
Healthy habits.
Yeah, and before healthy habits, there's the art of listening. Part of conflict is listening. But I'd encourage you to go back to one of the series that we did when we were handling communication. We did a whole session on listening. So if you go back and look at those recordings on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to catch up on that.
Yeah.
So healthy habits.
Mm.
I think this is one of the challenges of most marriages. What we realize is that it is so easy to get into autopilot.
Yeah.
It is so easy. And I remember even that time in our marriage when we were in just that stretch. Because life is happening around you, work is happening, relationships are happening, children are there. There's so much that goes on that if you're not careful, you just wake up and realize that you're in the same bed, but you're living life
Very
apart.
different ways. Yeah.
And that happens a lot. And I think each of us, perhaps sadly, we may know a couple that is like that, where life is happening to them instead of them actually doing life together.
You know, it's like a car. You can have two cars in the same garage. At the end of the day, they all enter the garage. They sleep in the same garage, but at the start of the next day, they go different directions.
Yes,
And
yes.
So
And it's so possible to just exist like that. So one of the first habits that we should develop as 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 partners is the art of praying together.
yeah.
Pray together as a family. There's that common saying, a family that prays together stays together. But in as much as it's common, it is not something that is very easy to do because it requires a lot of dedication and intentionality to pray together as a family. I remember in our experience when we were still just the two of us, we used to say a prayer together before we got into bed. And what happened is when we got children, it took us some time
to get back into that group.
To get back into that group. And I think it was finally last year. Right? Was it last year?
Yeah, last year, mid last year.
Yeah, mid last year we just woke up and we're like, no, we need to have family altar. We need to have a time where we sit together as a family, us and our children, because the Bible says that train up a child in the way of the Lord and will not depart from it. And the only way to do that is you have to spend time. The children have to see you praying together as a family, because those are the habits that they will pick up. So get your routine, pick a time. I remember us, we used to talk about it, but it wasn't until we picked a time, said in this house every day 7:30 p.m. we sit. So most times between 7:30 and 8:30, around that time, we sit down and have a time of prayer as a family, have a devotion. We choose a book to read every month. Sometimes it takes more than a month, sometimes it's less, but we pick a book in alternation between the Old and New Testament, read the word together and pray together. And we've seen a remarkable difference, because that is time we're not just spending together as a family, but as a couple.
Yeah. Another healthy habit that we propose is spending time together. I know we've talked a lot about having date nights and stuff like that, but it's actually good. You do realize that when you are in the dating phase, this was very simple. It was very easy. First of all, if you are not living together, it was very easy. That's what I can say. You could find time for a movie because you're still cornering this girl. there was so much time. There was so much money. Your responsibilities were not as many, and because of that, it was actually very fun. You could spend time, but now we noticed after a certain time in our marriage, maybe like after a few months even, the time reduced.
Yeah.
It reduced. And sometimes I think it's partly because of the notion that I've already won this person.
So there's no more need to
Yeah.
work.
There's no more need to work. But no, we need to spend time together.
Yeah, and I
There's
think it's
something it
about
does.
scheduling it. You have to be intentional once again. There's someone who said that the sad things in life
Can
schedule
be scheduled.
themselves.
Yeah.
So you need to schedule
Funerals will
yours.
schedule
Yes.
themselves. Bad things will always.
Yes, so you
Accidents
need
will
to
schedule.
schedule your celebrations, and you
Yeah.
need to be intentional about spending time together, because life, as I said, life happens.
Yeah.
You be busy with work, you be busy with the kids, and you realize that when was the last time you actually sat down and had an honest conversation, a meaningful conversation?
Yeah.
When was the last time you sat down and laughed
Mm.
together? So spend that time, be intentional about scheduling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing is lifestyle commitments. Now, it is a hard paper, and most especially for the men, because you have that thing of, I have to work to take care of my family.
Yeah.
But quite sadly, and it happened a lot with, I think, our generation and our parents, there's a whole generation whereby they were so busy working, so busy educating their children, that they were not there for their children. So if you talk to most people, their childhood, really, how often did they
All
see
we
their
know
parents?
about our parents is we used to see them when we get back home, maybe on Sundays, Sunday afternoons.
Uh-huh. Or you're just seeing them at supper time and going to sleep, and that is because you let life schedule create for you your schedule. And I think it's important to schedule your time as a family.
Yeah.
Be intentional. You know that, okay, we leave work at this time every day. A minimum of this number of days a week, we should be home at this time. You have to be very intentional about that. Otherwise, you get into this rat race, and your children, can I say, the world will raise your children for you.
Yeah.
So you have to be intentional and have your list of things you do as a household. If it's we don't carry work home, that is the rule.
Yeah.
You don't carry work
that
home.
is the decision you're making,
Yes.
and stick to it.
Yes, and it has implications, because as we know it, the people who supposedly give up their time the most, employers like single people.
Yeah.
All those people who are willing to stay in office up to 8. But is that the most important thing? Is making that money the most important thing? Is that the ultimate goal of this life that we are living?
No, there should be a balance.
Yes, it's important to have a balance, but it's also important to know the main things. God has called you to be a steward. Yeah, and if you're blessed with children, your ultimate goal is to steward these children. That's the most important thing. If you have a spouse, you went and got someone's daughter from their house, in the hierarchy of things after God, it is your spouse. Yeah, so they are your responsibility. So we need to be very conscious and intentional about it, and it is a challenging thing, because like I said, it comes with its own strings attached. But I think the benefit to your marriage and to your family way outweighs that.
Yeah. Another one is setting boundaries for our kids. Yeah. One thing that we are privileged to do right now is have our kids sleep early.
Yeah.
I think by 8 they should be asleep. They should be asleep by 8, and wake up by what? By 6:30.
If it's school time, usually about 6:30. It's not school, they wake up whenever they want to wake up. But our children are early risers, they take after the father.
Yeah. So why this is important is it helps create patterns for them. You know, like we say children are creatures of habit. You need to set those patterns, and also it helps them. It helps them mentally. It helps them physically. Yeah.
And it's not even just that; it's an added benefit to your marriage.
Yeah. It means that you have time to spend together as a couple.
You have time to spend together. You reduce the stress, and especially for women, when the kids stay up, you get so exhausted. You're so exhausted, and then by the time you get to bed, you're tired, and that ultimately affects the intimacy in a marriage. You can't be going to bed at the same time as your children. Really, what are they doing going to bed late? You know, the later they go to bed, it means the later you go to bed.
Yes.
And by that time you're exhausted, and intimacy is a thing. It is a big thing that needs to be dealt with. So let us not forget that we need to set those boundaries. They come out into this world with no patterns, and you, the parent, you're the one who has to put the patterns in place for them, such that ultimately you have a healthy relationship with your children, but you also have a healthy relationship with your spouse. One more thing we need to do is learn together. Take the time to learn together. Do marriage courses together. Remember, as we purpose that every year we are going to try and do something, whether it is a retreat, whether it's a marriage course. But it took some time. It's not something that we started at the start of our marriage, really.
No.
I think we started about 4 years or so into our marriage. So find what works for you. If it is reading together, read together. If it is listening to a podcast together, listen to a podcast together. And
If it means driving to work together,
yeah,
the key word is together.
Together. Get a pattern that you both do, because you have to be, as a couple, it is important to grow at the same pace.
Yes,
It's very, very important to grow at the same space. So find those things which you can do together, which you can learn together. If it's about finances, let not one be more financially literate than the other, but try to balance out that space. If you're learning about finances, do it together. If you're learning about parenting, do it together. If you're learning about the marriage space, do it together.
And the beauty about this is, much as you're doing this for yourself, you have eyes watching you.
Yes.
You have children watching you. And you're painting this picture about marriage. Because whether you like it or not, your marriage will be the blueprint for your children.
Yeah. There's nowhere else they are going to learn
if
from.
they see you doing things together, it means that they know that when they get married, they have to carry on. Like, that is something that they will do.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really call upon you guys to do is to serve together. There is something about serving in the house of the Lord as a couple. It makes you a power couple.
It does. Because then you don't have this conflict. You know, when one spouse is serving and the other is not, that incessant need to argue about things, it crops up, because then you feel like they are taking away from you. It's such inherent human selfishness. You're like, this one is always in rehearse, this one is always doing this, so you feel like you're left out. But when you serve together, you get that balance, and you grow together in doing that. Find a place, whether it is serving in the church together, serving in the community together. Just find something that unites the two of you in service. For us, we found that this is one of the avenues. This casts that we do, these recordings that we do that together. We lead the marriage space together. Even in church, there are different things that we do together. That togetherness is important, because it creates a unity that is healthy for you. So after all this, I think it's important to develop a strategy. What is your strategy for dealing with conflict? What is your strategy for after the conflict? You know, you may have the illusion that after you've dealt with the conflict, the switch flips and you're back to normal. No, there will always be that raw emotion, because you're emotional beings, and it takes time. It takes time to let loose of it. So let's develop a few strategies. Give your spouse the necessary space to process. It's important to process. Even after you've come to an agreement, still someone needs to process. So gauge and give them space. Don't expect everything to revert to normal or to get better immediately. Give your partner the time to process the entire situation, to process the whole discussion, and to process what you've agreed upon to go forward.
You can also engage in healthy activities. Each of you can unwind. Not only need to unwind, but you can also rejuvenate your spirit in doing things like jogging, taking walks, doing something basically to decompress.
Find something that helps you decompress. But it's also important that you should agree on these activities ahead of time, so that you're not picking something that your spouse is not comfortable with. Find that habit and find that activity that you can do together, and agree on it ahead of time.
and also take time to affirm the relationship.
Mm.
Yeah, even if both of you cannot agree at one time, just have a gesture, say like a hug,
Yeah. Hata it
handshake.
can be hard to hug someone guy you annoy that day.
Yeah, but you have to do it. You have to do it.
Yes, because ultimately, I think what you're trying to let your spouse know is that, you know what, we
I may
may
be
be
pissed.
fighting right
Yeah,
now, yeah, but this relationship
is more
is
important.
more important, and eventually we'll get to it. Not these things of you have a fight, this one sleeps in the sitting room, the other one sleeps in the bed. For what? For what? Just that simple act of sleeping in the same bed, even if one is facing this, the other west, it just shows that, you know what, we are going to get back to our space. Yeah. And take time to pray together. We cannot negate the power of prayer. The power of prayer is so important. Take time to pray together, and more so even when you're conflicting. That's when you should pray the most together, because the devil is just looking for that opening, that foothold. And once you make the mistake of giving it to him, he will enter in full swing and blow things out of proportion.
Yeah. Then also make a conscious effort to reconcile.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
we cannot stress this enough. You know, the devil he loves conflict.
Mm,
He loves when people fight, when
mm,
people part.
mm.
But on the other hand, God is a God of love, a God of unity.
Yes, yes, it is.
And by making a conscious effort to reconcile, you're killing the devil's power
Yes,
in
yes.
your life. Huh?
You're breaking those chains, you're
Mm.
breaking that barriers, and you're stopping something from growing into something bigger than it should be. Yeah. So it is very important to do that.
Yeah. So that is it about managing conflict.
No more drama.
No more drama, as
Yeah.
we say.
Mm,
Yeah, we thank you guys for watching and for listening to us. Wherever you are in your marriage, we don't know how you are, but just trust that the Lord is, yeah, God is a God of love,
yes.
and every marriage, we believe that every marriage is ordained
Yes, it is. It is.
and can work.
Yes.
Yeah. As we end, if you haven't given your life to Christ, just say this prayer with us. Father God, thank you for dying for me on the cross. Today I choose to receive you as my Lord and Savior. May you take charge of my life. May you take charge of all that I do. This day I believe that I am your child and that your promises are true to me. I thank you, and may your name be lifted high. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
We believe in Rooted Community Church that as He is,
So are we in Christ Jesus.
in Christ Jesus.
Yeah, you're the righteousness of God, and it's all through Christ. It's not through the things you do, but it's through the Christ that Christ paid.
Yeah.
Okay. See you next week.
See you next Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.